Hello, welcome to day one of Cut the Confusion course. I'm Carolyn Banner, your host from Body by Banner, and I apologize for being a few minutes late. I had some tech issues when I first pulled up to go live. I was saying that I couldn't access my camera, so I had to restart it. And let me just tell you, when you're restarting your computer, it feels like it takes forever when you're on when you're trying to get something started on time. So I apologize. My apologies. So today we are going to jump into the topic of intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is just a really, really hot topic right now that I'm getting a lot of questions about, both in person and online, just from people emailing me back, asking me questions on social media. So I wanted to break this down as our number one, day one topic for Cut the Confusion. And I'll be going over, just to give you an overview, since today is day one. If you're not familiar, if you haven't already signed up, I'm going to actually put it in the comments right now, the link to grab extra goodies. So I'm going to be sending out exclusive bonus material each day. At the end of this course, I'm going to be sending out each day some additional material that you can go through. And if you're watching on Instagram Live, I'm streaming both through Facebook and Instagram Live. You can jump over to Facebook and grab that link now to make sure that you're on the list, you don't miss any of the bonus materials and special offers I'm going to be providing. If not, I will be sharing it too as well through the link in my profile that will be available to you as well on Instagram. So for day one, I'm just going to give you an overview first before we jump into the information I want to share about intermittent fasting. What's the hype? What's the reality? What's fact? What's fiction? And how can you really come away with some tools to know whether it's something that might work for you? Because really, in the end of the day, right? Like, it's nice to have information that's factual and helpful, which I hopefully will share with you as a nutrition expert with over 16 years as a registered dietitian. But also, we need to know if it's going to work for us. We need to have tools to actually implement these strategies, right? The information. So we can have information overload. And I think that that's actually where I'm coming from, is that so many people have information overload. They're on the internet, they're searching, trying to figure out what is the thing that they need to do that's best for them. And that can just really feel overwhelming. So not only do I want to give you kind of the breakdown between fact and fiction, from my perspective as an expert with 16 years as a registered dietitian, and the last 6 as a personal trainer and yoga teacher, so I have that background in fitness and in nutrition. So I'm going to give you my expert opinion. And then I'm also going to give you tools so that you can be the expert for yourself to know whether or not you want to implement some of these strategies that we're going to talk about. So we're going to go over hot topics. Today will be intermittent fasting. Tomorrow we're going to break down some exercise fads. So Orange Theory, if you've ever done Orange Theory, if you're wondering what it is, you've heard of it. Some of those other long endurance classes like Soul Cycle, Flywheel, if you're just like, is this something that I should be doing? Because I hear so much about it. There's a lot of hype around it. We're going to break that down tomorrow. So make sure that you join in tomorrow as well if you want to get some information about that. And as well, we're going to be going over some additional information over the rest of the week. Ketogenic diets. What else we're going to cover? Of course, now I'm forgetting collagen, peptides. There's a lot of hype around that as well. Give me a thumbs up if you are interested in any of these topics. Please let me know if this is something that you're interested in. And I would love to also cover, maybe if you have other questions, please put those in the comments. So let me know if there's other topics that I haven't covered or that I don't highlight, preview that I'm going to be covering. Please let me know if you want to hear more about those topics. I will be happy to cover them. Awesome. Yeah, I'm getting a comment for keto. For sure. Definitely a hot topic right now, and one that I will go into, not today, but we'll be covering this week, probably on Wednesday, because it's such a hot topic for so many people. People who've signed up for the course have been emailing me back saying, hey, I want to know more about keto. I keep hearing about it. So definitely. While you're on, those of you who are listening, I'm glad I have some people on live. Please put in where you are listening from. I have ladies and people from all over the world that are part of the Body by Banner community. So it's always super fun to just know where people are listening in from or watching in from. So just if you can, put in the comments where you're watching in from. And we're going to jump into this. So like I said, my name's Carolyn Banner, and I'm coming to you to bring you my expert opinion with my background of 16 years, more, geez, I'm getting old, as a registered dietitian nutritionist, and for the last 6 years as a personal trainer and yoga teacher. So really combining my expertise as a dietitian, nutritionist, and a fitness professional, and bringing them together to really hopefully give you some tools to just cut through the, I wanted to call it cut through the crap, but you can't really promote that on social media. So awesome, Hyde Park. I didn't realize you're a Hyde Parker. Amazing, local guy, love it. In Canada, great. So fun to have you guys listening in. Thanks for putting that in. And yeah, so if you have questions too while I'm talking or just comments at all, please put them in the comments. So first of all, I want to hear, either with a thumbs up or a comment, have you tried intermittent fasting? So even if you're watching this later, I would love to have you put in the comments. I know on Instagram you can't put in the comments later, but on Facebook, if you're watching this later, please let me know. Have you tried intermittent fasting? Is this something that you've already given a go? And if you are watching the replay of this, if I send this to you as you're part of the course, please email me back. I want to hear your experience. So please share that with me. I'm just realizing that we still have all of the birthday decorations for my son's 5th birthday behind me. So just haven't had the time to clean that up yet. Okay, so let's dive in. So if you've tried it, and I have, okay, so unfortunately not tried it, that's okay. You love breakfast too much. All right, well, we're gonna break that down. Yes, some people are like, I can't even imagine not having breakfast. It's just like my favorite meal of the day. I can't imagine like starting my day without food. Well, here's the thing. There's a million ways that you can customize intermittent fasting, and also this other concept that I'm gonna differentiate between intermittent fasting and time restricted eating, because they're really kind of two separate things, and I'm gonna differentiate between the two of them, and you can really customize them to really work with your lifestyle. So if you love breakfast, and actually that really can be like the optimal time that you wanna fuel your body is from breakfast to lunch, and maybe you actually can do a window of not eating that's in the evening. So maybe you don't have a late dinner, right? So it's just a matter of timing and making it work for you. So intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, and I'm gonna break down what the difference is between the two of those, is basically confining when you eat, so getting a little bit more organized and specific about when you eat, and cutting off perhaps when you finish eating for the day, and then maybe delaying a bit when you start eating the next day. So you can have anywhere of and they're called eating windows, where you're eating and then you have periods where you're fasting or not eating. And so for some people, for example, they will delay breakfast. They won't have breakfast. They'll just start their first meal of the day with maybe a lunch around noon. And here's the thing, what I do love about intermittent fasting is that it kind of breaks away from these classifications of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which I think can get us pigeonholed into thinking that breakfast has to be specific breakfast foods, like super sugary, high carb things, and moves us into thinking about them just being our first meal of the day, second meal of the day, third meal, however many meals you have for the day. Some people maybe just have 2, some people have 3, some people do better with smaller, more frequent meals. So what I love about it is that it kind of moves away from that just stereotypical breakfast foods that usually aren't super nutritious, if you ask me, and moving more into thinking about first meal of the day. And that could be anything, right? So you can actually have vegetables and lean protein and maybe leftovers for breakfast, and break through that stereotype of having to have cereal or waffles or bagels or oatmeal or things that are super high in grains and carbohydrates, and shift to actually just having whatever sounds good to you that's actually that aligns with helping you feel your best. How does that sound to you guys? Does it seem weird to you to like not be thinking of breakfast? Is it just like, whoa, I can't even imagine not having breakfast foods in the morning? I have to have breakfast foods. I can't imagine having like leftovers or chicken or something. What does that sound like to you guys? Because I think for some people it can be really revolutionary. So that's one thing I love about intermittent fasting. So you have this concept of certain window of time where you eat, and then certain window of time where you don't eat. The difference between, and that's true for both intermittent fasting, which is a bit more strict, and time-restricted eating windows. So time-restricted eating windows aren't quite as strict, and it's actually what I would say most people are doing. They're not actually doing a full fast, where they're really being very conscientious about what they're putting in their mouth. Because even if you're having some things like lemon water or coffee with a bit of cream in it, or you're having even a tea with some like fruit in it, that can break a strict fast. So that would be along the lines where you're maybe not having a huge like calorie intake, where you're really maybe only having liquids for the majority of the time where you're not eating solid food, but you're still going to be kind of kicking your blood sugar up a bit and releasing insulin. So you're technically actually breaking the fast. So that's more of a time restricted eating, where you're still having liquids that aren't just water or black coffee, and you're allowing a few other things in and aren't being quite as strict. So intermittent fasting is actually, when done kind of a pure way, is quite strict. So here's the difference between what would break a fast and what would not raise your blood sugar and kind of maintain the fast. So I think that's an important place to start, because then you can kind of know whether or not you're doing more of a true intermittent fast or more of a time restricted eating. And from there, I'm going to break down what are the benefits of both, and whether or not maybe that would be a good choice for you. So here are the things that would break a fast and actually spike the blood sugar a bit in our systems, because it's breaking down maybe a tiny bit of carbohydrates, or even fats and proteins can spike the blood sugar as well and cause the release of insulin. And what that is just a hormonal response that then breaks the fast. So here are some things that can break your fast. And that would be anything with carbohydrates. So any kind of fruit juice, like I mentioned, even some of the teas that have bits of fruit, like apple or citrus peel, those things that have fruits in them, those can actually contribute to spiking the blood sugar, just kind of a little sneaky way. Anything like apple cider vinegar water, lemon juice, where you really squeeze a good bit of lemon juice into a water and have that in the morning or any time of the day, that will actually cause a bit of a spike in your blood sugar because of the juice from the lemon that has carbohydrates. Even things like collagen peptides and MCT oil, like medium chain triglycerides, or butter in bulletproof coffee, for example, that's a really common one that people tend to say is part of a fast. They'll have that in the morning and say that they're still doing intermittent fasting. Whereas I would argue, because those things will actually cause a release of insulin, it will cause the blood sugar to spike a little bit and cause a release of insulin in response to consuming them. You're actually doing a time-restricted eating window versus a true fast. So anything with carbohydrates, so juices, fruity teas, even a bite of something, lemon water, collagen peptides or butter, and coconut oil in bulletproof coffee, any of those will actually cause a release of insulin and break the fast. Are you guys with me a little bit? Give me a thumbs up if you're with me, if you can hear me okay. Hey, nice to see you on. If you are joining in now, I'd love to just hear where you're joining in from. We had some people from Hyde Park. We had some people from Canada. I know I had some ladies coming in from Argentina. So yeah, so let me know where you're listening to. So right now I'm just breaking down the difference between intermittent fasting, a strict fast, and time restricted eating window. So the things that break the fast are, what do we have? We have the carbohydrates, any kind of small amount of carbohydrate, proteins, and fats. And then things that won't break the fast, and again, there's still some research on this. So with anything related to nutrition, it is a new and evolving science. So there's still, because this is kind of a hot trend, the science hasn't caught up completely yet. So we're still kind of learning and getting new research as we go. From what we know now, here are the things that do not break a fast and will help you stay with that, not releasing insulin and getting some of the benefits of a true fast. And that's water. So just pure water without any fruit or lemon added to it. Most green teas, black teas, any kind of black coffee without any fruit or sugar, sweetener, or honey or creams added to it should be fine. They should not technically cause a break in the fast, and it can be included in an intermittent fast or time-restricted eating window. And other things that you can technically have on a fast would be carbonated water. So like a bubbly water or things that just have like stevia in it. So Zevia or diet sodas, which I don't recommend, but can technically be included because they won't break your fast. And yeah, I see your question. So there's a question here, and please, if you're joining in, you have questions, please add them. So I might not necessarily answer it right this second, but I will make sure to answer it. So just a second, I will read it. If my goal is to maintain a muscular built physique, can I still maintain it on a fast? So we're gonna get to that, yes. So thank you for that question. And if anyone else has questions, please put them in the comments. I'll make sure to get to it. Okay, so hopefully you guys have a bit of understanding of what can break a fast and what you can still include on a fast where it won't cause an increase in blood sugar levels and a release of insulin. So we kind of broke that down. And so the difference, again, just to reiterate, between intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating windows, which is, I think, what technically most people are doing. They're not being so strict on the fats because they are including things like bulletproof coffee or perhaps lemon water or even apple cider vinegar, all these things that people say are really helpful for your gut and your metabolism. They're like trying to get them all in, and they're maybe including them during that time that's the fast, but it's not strictly a fast because they're going to boost the release of insulin. Sorry. There are always sirens going by our house. Okay, so in terms of the science, what's the actual science say? So most of the science actually looks at true intermittent fasting. So I think that's important to know. We can't apply some of these studies and the results that they've had on something like a time-restricted eating window because it's not the same, right? We're having a different hormonal response. If we're having lemon water, we're having apple cider vinegar, all those different things, we can't apply that science to a different thing that we're doing. So it just doesn't work. So in terms of the science, here are two things about it. One, they technically are looking, most of them have looked at true intermittent fasting where you're not doing any of that release of insulin. And number two is that most of the studies have also been done primarily with men and not on women. So they're generally young men and not on women. So that's a big thing. And there's starting to be some more studies that are looking at more diverse populations. But again, we can't apply results, especially when it has such a huge, the crux of it is based on the hormonal response in the body. And there is a huge difference, my friends, between the hormones of a man and the hormones of a woman, and particularly the hormones of a young man and the hormones of a middle-aged woman, for example. So that is where, for me, this is where it gets beyond, where you have to move beyond what's available in the science and really look at being an expert on you. So right now, I said, I'm an expert in terms of, I'm a nutrition expert with 16 years experience as a registered dietitian nutritionist, but you, my friend, are the expert in you. You know your body the best. You know your response to food and how you feel after you eat certain things. So I want to give you empower you and the authority to really take this science that we have available right now that is limited and then apply it to yourself, right? You have a starting point. Maybe you give it a try. But then the real thing is what I call the filter of you. You put it through the filter of you. How does your body feel when you try this? That's the ultimate test. That's the ultimate study. You need to study yourself. And, because really, even if you have a study done on women in LA or Los Angeles or whatever, and they're from 35 to 45 years old, whatever, and you're in that population, that would be my age group, it's still, there's a lot of other factors. You still can't always extrapolate science from something, that's been done on other bodies, other genetics, other hormones, and apply it directly to yourself. You always have to put it through that filter of you. So if there's one thing you take away from this week, is that power in your own knowledge of yourself is to put it through what I call the filter of you and really be the expert in yourself. You have that ability. So that's the science, right? Most of the research has been done on men, and most of it has been done on true intermittent fasting, not on time-restricted eating windows, which from what I hear from what people are doing, is actually what's most often being done, is more time-restricted, including things like the bulletproof coffee, yada, yada. Okay, so what are some of the benefits, though, that these studies are finding? And then we'll go into some application and whether it's maybe going to work with your specific goals of like maintaining physique and doing an intermittent fast. So some of the, why it's so hot, like, right, there's a lot of benefits that they found in these studies. So that's why it is really something that people are like interested in. So some of the things is that it can increase some of the hormone levels, again, they were on men, which are human growth hormone, testosterone, luteinizing hormone, and helping to kind of decrease the insulin release, or help people be more insulin sensitive, so that when they eat carbohydrates, they actually process them better and don't store it as fat. So what does human growth hormone and testosterone and luteinizing hormone, what do those actually do? Those can actually make it more likely, the environment of your body, the hormonal environment of your body, more likely to create muscle, so get that muscle mass, and lose fat. So it makes it possible so that if you're working out, you're actually going to build more muscle mass more easily. You're going to get that nice toned physique, hopefully, that you're looking for, and you're going to hopefully lose some of the fat, burn off the fat while you're doing the fasting. And other things that have been really cool about it are like this anti-aging you might have heard about, which is called autophagy, where it's basically where the cells start to recycle damaged cells. So it helps, you know, with aging, supposedly cancer prevention. So, right, so if you have the activation of the cells eating up, cleaning, recycling the damaged cells, which could lead, right, to cancer, then you're helping to prevent, you know, minimize your risk, right? There's multi-factors with cancer, of course. So I'm not going to say that this is like anti-cancer diet. No, but it could be potentially, they're showing that could potentially be a tool, like everything with nutrition. There's tools, there's no magic bullet. Other things that it helps, again, because of the way it helps regulate your insulin release, is with decreasing your cravings, right? That's amazing. I find that personally, again, this is my filter of me, putting it through the filter of me, is that it definitely helps me reduce my cravings. So if I've had a particularly indulgent weekend, or like a night out, or maybe I've been drinking and I don't usually drink alcohol very much anymore, and maybe I had like sweets, for instance, after my son's birthday, we had birthday cake, and I don't usually eat that much sugar. And I know that those hyper palatable foods can really trigger me, right? Like it triggers your brain to want more of it. It's almost like predisposing you to want even more of those things. And so I know that if after those kind of experiences where I've really mindfully enjoyed those extra treats, those hyper palatable foods that I know can trigger more cravings, I will often intentionally do, not as a like punishment, but as an intentional tool and strategy to help minimize future cravings, I will do an intermittent fast. So say we finish eating at 8, because we eat later, 8 or 9, and then I won't necessarily eat until about 16 hours later. And if I'm doing a true intermittent fast, I will only have water. I will not even take my supplements. I will not do lemon water like I might normally do. I won't even have coffee. If I do have any kind of coffee, it would be black, no cream, because usually I put a little bit of heavy cream in mine. And I would do until, so if I stop eating at 8, what is that math? 12. So my first meal of the day would be at 12 the next day. So a 16-hour intermittent fast. And then I would just go about my normal day. I would be really intentional about getting my really nutrient dense foods in, because if you have a shorter time of eating, and I think this is particularly true for women, if you're of childbearing age, if you're trying to get pregnant, this is where you really need to kind of be a little bit thoughtful of whether it might be the right strategy for you at that time, because it can be hard to get in all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that our body needs. So when we are eating during that 6 to 8 to 10 hour window, when it's the eating window, we got to make it really count. We got to get in good, nutritious foods that's going to really keep us feeling good and giving our body all the nutrition that it needs. Are you guys with me? I'm kind of talking a lot. Like, I'm so excited about this topic. I've got a lot. So give me a thumbs up, a wave, or something if you're still with me. And if you have any questions, of course, please put them in the comments. If you're just joining in, I had some people kind of popping in and off. If you're just joining in, I'd love to know where you're listening and watching in from. So put that in the comments, just like, hey, I'm from Chicago. And for those of you watching on Facebook, because I've got Instagram and Facebook going, I've got the link for the, awesome, thank you for that. I've got the link for the course, so all the bonus materials I will be sending out. You want to make sure that you're on that link, reminders so that you know when I'm going to be jumping on live, as well as replays, and special offers just for those that are in the course on my list. So you guys won't want to miss this. I'm going to share more at the end, but just a little teaser. I'll be giving you access to do a nutrition and exercise audit. So the exact form and tools that I offer to my one-on-one coaching clients, I will send that to you and give you that tool to fill out. And then we'll meet on a phone call to strategize and get some really specific tools in place for you to, we would focus either on nutrition or exercise, probably not both, because I just want to do really focused intervention. That's available just for those that are signing up through the link. So those of you on Instagram, I'm going to have that in the link in my bio, so make sure that you hang around for that. Okay, so we talked about some of the benefits that they found in the research. So increasing hormones that can help with muscle mass, like improving your muscle tone, right? Like once you work out, it's going to be more likely that you're going to improve your muscle mass and shed fat. They found through the studies that it helps with autophagy, which is basically recycling the damaged cells, which is for anti-aging and potentially for cancer prevention, and decreasing cravings. I was giving a little anecdote about my experience with that. It's super helpful for me to do that intermittent fasting to help minimize those cravings for hyperpalatable foods. And what I mean by hyperpalatable foods is high fat, high sugar, high salt, sometimes in combination. Exactly what the food industry markets to us are hyperpalatable foods. Those are the ones that our brains are wired to want them. It's like crack for our brains. It's like food crack, unfortunately. Other benefits that people have found with intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating windows are mental clarity. And again, they haven't found the exact method or physiology or why it's happening, but people have found, and I find this true for myself, that I tend to be much clearer in my thinking when I'm doing an intermittent fast. I am surprisingly not thinking about food. I'm actually much more focused in my work. I can write a lot better, and I can just be much more just productive. And I'm not as to slow down. It's just, there's not that grogginess. I'm just super focused. So mental clarity is another big benefit. And then it can save time and energy. If you're not having to do one more meal, if you're consolidating maybe to 2 meals instead of 3, it's just a reality, right? If you're doing this smartly, if you're doing it thoughtfully, and I'm going to give you some caveats, especially for women, because our hormones are different, but it actually is really nice to just not have to do one more meal planning, prepping, and cleaning up from. And then it can help with, they found that some correlation with improving cardiovascular health and improving blood sugar, making some people more insulin sensitive, so can delay the onset of diabetes if that's something that an individual is predisposed for. And last but not least, it can help sometimes with fat loss. And one thing a recent study, I should have reviewed it to give you the exact, I don't want to give you false information, but it was basically looking at how using an intermittent fast. So in the study, they had a group that was just doing calorie restriction, and then there was a group that was having the same amount of calories but using an intermittent fasting model, and they had such more improved results with the intermittent fasting model. They were both cutting calories, so having a caloric deficit, but the intermittent fasting model created what they found was the hormonal response that helped the patients, the clients, the participants lose the fat and preserve muscle mass. So here's where I want to get into the question that, I think it's Ian, is that who your name is? Always hard with handles, you never know what the actual name is. From the question on Instagram about if my goal is to maintain a muscular build, physique, can I still maintain it on a fast? Sorry, it was hard to read it. And as a man, I'm assuming, I think you're male, I'm assuming from your photo, that yes, actually, it is very successful with men in particular, intermittent fasting. And again, I would encourage you to really try to do a true intermittent fast where you're not maybe having those little things sneaking in that can spike your blood sugar and cause the release of insulin, and do maybe an 8-hour window of eating throughout the day and really make those focused on high, lean protein sources, high fiber, so tons of vegetables, as many vegetables as possible. My thing is all of us, myself included, can eat more vegetables. So the more vegetables you can get in, the better during your eating window. And of course, getting in healthy fats with the food you're eating. And if you're training, when you're training, you want to be strategic. So here's the thing, right? You want to make sure that you're getting those carbohydrates, especially after your training, to help with rebuilding your glycogen stores in your muscles so that you can have a really good workout the next time and help you with repair and recovery. And that you also are helping to lower your stress hormones by getting that carbohydrate intake in right after your meal. So usually an ideal time to train would be perhaps if you are eating your first meal of the day at 12, to train at around 11. Most people don't necessarily have that flexibility though, because of the fact that they're not like me perhaps and working from home and can go to the gym whenever. So that's where you would say you haven't really tried it because you love breakfast so much. So perhaps you could try something different, right? Where I have had clients that do, like they stop eating around 4 or 5 in the 4 in the afternoon. And then they have breakfast in the morning. So they aren't skipping breakfast. They actually are just skipping like their last meal of the day. And so if you're more of a breakfast morning person, you could get up early, do your workout first thing, fasted, and then eat your first meal of the day afterwards, making sure you're getting in that lean protein and carbohydrates. So let me know if that answers your question, but definitely because of the research they've shown, right, it's going to increase human growth hormone, which is really important for muscle mass. Testosterone for women as well is actually really important. Exercise is a huge way to boost our secretion of testosterone, just dependent on that time, not to make you more manly, but just to have the effects of increasing your muscle mass, which is what we want. When people say they want to get toned, essentially what they're saying is that they want more muscle mass, but they want to also lose the fat so that they can see the muscle. Okay, any questions coming up for you? I want to just look at my notes really quick. Okay, so how do we know if it's right for you, right? How do we know if this is something that would be a good option for you? And I'm going to go through a little bit of, especially caveats, I think, for women, some things to look out for, some questions to ask yourself of whether or to look for to see if it's maybe working or not. And by working, I mean that it's adding something to your life, some benefits, and not taking away, not causing some more issues. So first of all is this, do you like it? Do you like doing intermittent fasting? And I think, like that's not something you want to just like rule out if you try it once and you hate it. I mean, you can, of course, this is a tool. You don't even have to try it. But I would say give it a few times, right? Maybe over the course of a month, you do it like once or twice a week and you just see, right? After that month, do I even like this? Is this sustainable? Can I do this long-term? If you cannot do this long-term, then forget about it. If you can't sustain it, then what's the point? It's just a fad. It's not actually going to cause lasting change. So number one, do I like it? Is this sustainable? And give it a little bit of time. You're not necessarily going to love it the first time. So when I say, do I like it? Give it a fair shot. And that usually means, like at least a couple weeks of trying it here and there. And I'll tell you kind of how I recommend maybe trying it. Another question to ask yourself is, am I starving? Am I like so hungry I can't think? Because usually when I do it, I actually get more clarity, like I said. But if for you, and there'll be certain times for me too, where I've tried intermittent fasting and I cut it short because I've actually been like in that scenario where I shared before the mental clarity improvement, that's when it's worked well. There have been times too where I've cut it short because I'm so hungry I cannot think straight, or I'm just like, it's a different time in my month of like hormone levels, and so I find that if I'm PMSing, I get hungry like a motherfucker, mofo, and just can't do it. And so then if that's the case, break your fast. If you are so hungry, if you're starving, if you can't think straight, if you are thinking about food, you're more likely then to overeat later on. So just break the fast with a healthy food. Try and grab the healthiest thing available to you, preferably maybe like a banana and peanut butter, something that's going to be like not super hard to digest, like pizza or something. But try and grab something healthy that's going to give your body nutrition, some carbohydrates, some protein, and a little bit of healthy fats. So number one, do I like it? Is it sustainable? Number two, am I starving? If you're starving, then you probably want to break the fast because you might have compensatory like overeating later on, and it's not worth it to push through it. It's a sign that your hormones are giving you feedback, biofeedback, that's like, no, not the right time. Try again another day. And that's really probably going to be more likely for women because of the different ebbs and flows of our hormones throughout the month. Am I pregnant? Don't do it. No. If you're trying to get pregnant, no. Stop intermittent fasting and talk to your dietitian and get some specific recommendations for you. If you're nursing as well, I would say do not try intermittent fasting. And then a really good one with any nutrition, anything, right? When I talk about like put it through the filter of you, do I have more or less energy? If I have more energy, right? Are you getting the benefits? Are you feeling like some pros to this thing that you're trying? Then yes, that's sign, that's feedback. That's good. You want to keep going. If you have less energy, if you're feeling drained, if you're feeling like super hungry, then that's feedback as well. It's not a failure. It's just everything's feedback. Just take that feedback and use it, right? To figure out if you're going to pivot or not. If you're not having more energy, then maybe you need to pivot and try a different way of doing it. Maybe the timing is off. Maybe the time of the month for you as a woman is off to be doing it. So pivot. It's feedback. Take it. And then again, I think this is a tool. It's not, and it's like it's kind of a mindset thing. How is your mindset around it? It's not a end-all solution. It's not a magic bullet like anything with diet. It's a tool. So remember that. It's one tool of many that we have. The foundation of our diet should be full of vegetables, as many vegetables as possible, even if you're not a vegetarian. Get in as many vegetables as you can. Get in quality sources of lean protein. Get in some really good healthy fats from seeds, from nuts, from quality butters, from coconut oil, from olive oil. I always say if people ask me about fats, which might be one of the topics that we go over later this week, is like, what should I use for cooking and fats? Is a variety. Always try and get a variety in, because then you're going to get different nutrients. You're not going to just be getting one, because there's always evolving science, right? Where there's olive oil is the best, canola is terrible, all these things. So just keep it varied. And then one thing too that came up, I think, in terms of whether or not it's something for you to try, is I had a client, and she was one of my one-on-one clients working on fat loss, and she was having good success, but it was kind of getting to this point where she was stalling a little bit. And I was like, well, this is a tool, right? Like this strategy. Maybe we could try this, do some intermittent fasting, see if it helps. And so she thought about it, and I could tell she was resistant to it. And I was like, I can tell you're resistant. What's going on? And she's like, well, I'm just worried that it's going to give the wrong message to my children. And she has I think a 4 or 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And especially for her daughter, who was about 7 years old, she just didn't want to give her that message that she was skipping breakfast. And because usually they have breakfast together. And so she's like, I just don't feel like I would have the right language, or that they wouldn't understand yet why mommy's not eating breakfast. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course. I support you 100% in not doing this right now. It's maybe not the tool that's right for you. And so for her, we decided that intermittent fasting wasn't the best tool because of the messaging around it, that maybe children at a certain age wouldn't understand. Maybe when they're older, she was thinking she could explain it to her daughter and really say, this is a strategy. It's not a fad. I'm not trying to like punish my body for overeating or anything like that. So that just kind of finishes up, I think, what I want to really emphasize is that the most important thing with anything related to our nutrition is your overall diet and overall good nutrition, and really finding ways to optimize what we're eating in the sense of like really getting in as many vegetables that are full of the antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, fiber that we need. It's living food that energizes us, gives us that higher vibe. If we're eating processed, this like pre-made foods all the time, we're not really filling ourselves up with that living nutrition. So with anything, whether or not you're intermittent fasting, time restricted eating windows, or just regular eating, always come back to how can I really get the most nutrition in my diet? What can I get in that's a living, colorful food that's going to nourish me from the inside out? And then also just remembering, like, having the right mindset. This is a tool, not a magic bullet. And coming back to, how can I manage my stress? Is this adding more stress to me, or is it just kind of helping me manage my stress? Like I said, it can be helpful to not have to do one more meal of prep, cooking, and cleanup. So focus on the big rocks, focus on the things that are going to be the biggest dial shifters. And maybe for you, intermittent fasting helps set that tone, is that tipping point for you for making other good choices in your day. Or maybe it's a kind of a crutch, right? I've had people who've done intermittent fasting or time restricted eating windows, and it's a crutch for them, and it's not actually optimizing their overall nutrition and their metabolism. So how do we know that? Again, put it through the filter of you, use that biofeedback from your body. Specific things that you're going to know are telling your body whether or not it's feeling good, whether it's on the right track, are 3 things that I always tell people, my clients. And that's energy. Is your energy better or worse? So if you're having improved energy, stable energy, awesome, thumbs up, green light, go ahead. If you're having shitty energy, kind of big ups and downs, green light, or yellow, red light, stop, pivot, trying something else. If you're having super crazy hunger, if your just hunger is out of control, again, yellow or red light, stop, pivot, try something else, or just maybe not do it. And then if your hunger is kind of minimal and you just have like gradual buildup of hunger, you know that you can kind of like wait it out a bit and you're not going to get hangry, that's a good sign. That's a green light. Go ahead. And then the third one, so we have the energy, hunger, and then the last biofeedback that I think is really helpful, again, when you're doing that filter review, is to think about your cravings. Do you have more cravings? Are you like just can't stop thinking? Because like once you're like, I haven't eaten, and so you have this mindset of like, I can eat whatever I want. And if you're just like craving all the sugar, craving all the salt and the fat, yellow, red light, stop, pivot, try something else. And then if you're having less cravings though, which for me is one of the markers that I know that for me, intermittent fasting is a good thing every once in a while, is that I have less cravings. I have less cravings for sweets. I have less cravings for processed carbohydrates and chips and salty and fatty foods. That's a green light. That means for me that this is a tool that works for me. And I want to finish off with suggesting like how you can maybe implement intermittent fasting to try it. Again, I would not recommend this for if you're pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or breastfeeding. I would say use it with caution if you are having some hormonal imbalances as a woman, if maybe your periods are really irregular and you're having a lot of signs, so you have PCOS, other things like that. I would say work with a dietitian, work with someone that is really experienced with hormonal issues for women. I can recommend Stephanie Kleinberg. She's one of my best friends. She was my health coach back in the day after I had Oli to really get my hormones balanced after having him. Stephanie is an expert in female human hormone and hormones for women, and she is just an excellent coach in general. So I'd recommend checking her out if that is an issue. So those are the areas I would say I wouldn't recommend intermittent fasting. If you are interested in trying it, then I would suggest try it 1, maybe 2 times a week, not on consecutive days. So for example, maybe I'm going to try tomorrow. I'm going to do intermittent fasting tomorrow. So I would start even today with that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to stop eating by 7 or 8 at the latest. And then I will not eat again until, what would that be? 11 or 12 the next day. So I'd have a 16-hour window of not eating. And I would either choose to do this, ideally I would aim to try and be a true intermittent fast and not have anything that would spike my blood sugar. Or if I did a time restricted eating window, maybe I would allow myself to have like my lemon water in the morning or my coffee with a little bit of cream, but I would not have any other significant source of calories. That would be a time restricted eating window. So I would do that maybe tomorrow. On a Tuesday, I would not do intermittent fasting or time restricted eating again, probably until Friday. I would give myself at least a day, maybe 2 days in between. And I just find that especially for women, back to back is like too much. If you're a man, you might be able to get away with, because of the way your hormones are, you have a little bit more leeway, a little bit more give. You might be able to do intermittent fasting back to back and do it like during the week and then not do it on the weekends. But I would still give yourself breaks occasionally. Oh, great question. So I think is it Deanna? Is that you? Is that your name? It's always hard to tell from handles. 16 hours is the minimum recommended. So there's, like I mentioned in the beginning, which maybe you were on for, but there's a million ways you can do it in terms of when you start the fast, when you start your eating window, for how long you do the fast. I would say at least a 12-hour fast. But I find that the best results usually happen around 14 to 16 hours. I don't generally recommend for women to go longer than that. There are studies that did 24-hour fasts. So again, it's something if it works for you. I know that there's certain religions too. If, for instance, we have a lady in the Magic Makers movement who does I think it's a full 24-hour fast for Latter-day Saints, the Mormon community. They do that, I think, once a month or something on a Sunday. And so there's been some studies done within those communities, I believe, looking at what the effects are. And so you could go for up to a 24-hour period. There's people that do 48 hours, but I would say what's been mostly studied is between usually around 14 to 18 hours. I would say 14 to 16 hours is usually, for women, I find, is a good amount of time. And again, not back-to-back days. So that would be it. Any other questions? I love the questions that you guys posted, and it's so fun to just kind of interact a little bit more with you in this way. So I'll be doing another course tomorrow, another live training tomorrow, again, 11 a.m. Central Time here in Chicago, 12 noon Eastern, and we'll be going over exercise fat. So if you've ever heard of Orange Theory and you're like, should I be doing it? Or you are doing Orange Theory and you're like, is this the best thing for me? We're going to break down Orange Theory. We're going to break down some other fads like Soul Cycle, spin classes, and just talk about like what's legit, what's really works for you, and what's shit. There's like all these names I wanted to call this course, but on social media you can't use curse words like crap or shit. So it's cut the confusion, which is really what it is too. We're really working on cutting the confusion out of dieting, fitness industry. There's a lot of messaging in magazines and social media posts. And I really wanted to just give some factual background, and then also to take it beyond that, right? Because there's a point at which the science doesn't quite, it's not up to date yet. It hasn't met us to where we are with what we're interested in as a society. We are still catching up with the science to support certain things. And so how to take you beyond the science to figure out for yourself, right? Like those tools of like the filter of you to make you the expert for yourself, because you know yourself the best. So I hope you can join me tomorrow. Remember, please make sure you add your name and email to the free list. That's going to get all the additional bonus materials, access to that nutrition exercise audit. So I will send you the exact forms that I use with my one-on-one coaching clients so that you can fill it out and send them back to me. So I'm only going to be sending that to those that are interested, right? I'm only going to be working with people for this free audit if you take the initiative. So you're going to be on the course, so you need to fill out your name and email. It takes literally less than 1 minute. The link's here on Facebook, and I'll add it soon to Instagram. And so take the initiative if you're ready to get some feedback and to know exactly what tools are going to be good for you. Let me see what you're actually doing right now with your diet. You're going to fill out like what you eat for a day or two, and then you're going to fill out what you do for your movement and exercise and your stress and your sleep. Send that to me. Once I get that, then you'll have access to a free audit with me where we're actually going to jump on the phone and go through what I see are some points where, hey, you can try this, optimize this. Maybe this is a way you can tweak. Maybe, put this through the filter of you. Maybe you can try this tool and get it really specific to you. I want you to have some tools so that you can walk away with some real information and action to implement. Okay, so that's only available to those, though, that are on the list, and you'll also be getting all the replays and reminders of the trainings that are coming up over the next few days. So if you have any other ideas, though, topics, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to know about this. Like, is coconut oil really poison? That was a really hot one like 6 months ago, so last year. But if you have any other questions or like hot topics you want to make sure I cover, please let me know. All right. Love this. So much fun. So thanks so much for joining in, for sticking through it to the end. And can't wait to dive in again tomorrow. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.